Hebrews, Hebrews, Hebrews. This is Prophets of Awakening. This is our Tuesday Tanak and news briefing, the 21st of April, 2026. Okay. Our topic that we'll be discussing with out of this is why the Black Americans are moving back to the South. We're going to talk about that because it's been coming up over and over again on this channel. Okay, you can go to our YouTube channel, The Prophets of Awakening. Check out our videos. We have over 1,000 or so videos that you can look at, examine, get the meat out. These videos will lead you to the truth of the Holy Scriptures. And if you like what you're hearing and receiving, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It'll be greatly appreciated. And we have our Cash App at the bottom of the screen for those that want to help this channel move along. That too would be greatly appreciated. Okay. So with that being said, okay, this is for those that don't know. This is a non-Messianic channel. We deal with the Tanak and the Torah. Tanak being the Old Testament, so-called Book of Remembrance. It's from Genesis to Malachi. Okay, for those that don't know. And the Torah is the first 5 books of the Old Testament that was given to Moses by our Savior and our Redeemer, the Lord of hosts. Okay. This channel was created to aid and assist our Hebrews who are waking up in these last days to their true identity and also understanding that who their Savior and their Redeemer truly is. Shalom and welcome to this channel and welcome to our Tuesday Tanakh and news briefing. Okay. We're going to do our normal, which is a moment of silence, prayer, psalms, and then we have a topic for our topic for discussion is, like I said, why are Black people moving back to the South? And then we'll open it up for anybody with any questions, any comments, any dialogue. And then we'll go into our Tuesday night news, Tanaka news briefing, and we'll deal with all the different videos that we have. And this briefing is all about combining the Tanakh with current events, end times, okay, making it all make sense. Okay, so that's the purpose of it. So with that being said, a moment of silence is for the Lord of hosts and all that he's doing to bring about our prophesied deliverance. O Lord, I pray unto the Lord my God that we make our confessions. O Lord, the great and dreadful God, keeping covenant and mercy to them that love thee and to them that keep thy commandments. O Lord, righteousness belongeth unto thee, but unto us confusion of face as it is this day, to the men of Judah, to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, unto all Israel that are near and that are far off, through all the countries whither thou hast driven us, because of our trespasses we have trespassed against thee. Okay. O Lord, hear this prayer and cause thy face to shine upon thy people for your sake. O Lord, open thine eyes and incline thine ears to hear and behold our condition. O Lord, hear. O Lord, forgive. O Lord, hearken and do and defer not for thy own sake, for your people and the land need you desperately at this hour. Peace be unto you. Okay. Read the Psalms right quick. Okay. Okay, I'll read Psalm 4. It's an evening prayer of trust in God. Okay, it's a Psalm of David. Hear me when I call, O God, of my righteousness. Thou hast enlarged me when I was in distress. Have mercy upon me and hear my prayer. O ye sons of men, how long will ye turn my glory into shame? How long will ye love vanity and seek after leasing? Selah. But know that the Lord has set apart him that is godly for himself. The Lord will hear when I call unto him. Stand in awe and sin not. Commune with your own heart upon your bed and be still. Selah. Offer the sacrifices of righteousness and put your trust in the Lord. There'll be many that say, who will show us any good, O Lord? Lift thou up the light of thy countenance upon us. Thou hast put gladness in my heart, more than in the times that their corn and their wine increased. I will both lay me down in peace and sleep, and thou, O Lord, only maketh me dwell in safety. In safety. Okay, that was Psalm 4, an evening prayer of trusting in God. It's a Psalm of David. Okay, so with that being said, we're gonna move forward to our topic for discussion. Okay, and this topic for discussion is about the Black folks movement. Okay, and back to the South, something I've been saying forever and a day that it was coming. Okay, check it out, see what happens.
Over the last few decades, more than 5 million Black Americans have moved back to the South, reversing one of the biggest migration patterns in U.S. history. And here's what's even crazier. Since 2010 alone, the South has captured over 60% of Black population growth nationwide. But when you actually look at the map in 2026, the story gets a lot more interesting, because the cities with the highest concentration of Black residents today aren't where most people expect. They're not New York, not Chicago, not even DC. They're almost entirely rooted in the Deep South. So what's really driving this shift? Is it jobs, housing, or something deeper happening under the surface? These are the top 10 real chocolate cities in America today. Which one surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments. Number 10, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Baton Rouge should be one of the richest cities in the South. So why does it still feel stuck? Coming in at number 10, the metro sits at 34.9% with roughly 302,000 Black residents. A lot of people write off this metro, but to be fair, it's home to LSU and acts as a massive hub for the Gulf Coast energy sector. There are high-paying engineering and petrochemical jobs here. The problem is how that wealth is distributed. The median household income in the metro hovers around $65,000, but inside the city limits, it drops sharply. The major friction point recently was the St. George secession. A wealthier, predominantly white suburb officially broke away to form its own municipality so they wouldn't have to share a tax base with the core city. This pulled millions in tax revenue out of Baton Rouge proper overnight. The Black percentage here is creeping up primarily because white residents are moving out of the parish entirely or retreating to places like Ascension Parish. Compared to Houston, where energy money is actively diversifying into tech and medicine, Baton Rouge is still heavily tied to old oil cycles. A lot of residents working in those petrochemical plants say their income is solid, but opportunities outside that specific industry are dry. If you don't wear a hard hat or work at the university, finding a corporate bag is tough. That's why younger professionals often leave, not because there's no money, but because there's no flexibility. It leaves the Black community managing a city with a strained budget and aging infrastructure, specifically the traffic gridlock on I-10 that kills commute times. This is exactly why property values stall out in certain zip codes, even when the broader economy looks okay on paper. Baton Rouge has the industrial foundation to thrive, but the internal political divisions keep major modern manufacturing investments away. This city works, but mostly if you already fit a very specific economic mold. Number 9, Augusta, Georgia. Augusta might be the most boring city on this list, but it's quietly one of the smartest financial moves you can make right now. It lands at number 9 with 35.1%, holding about 212,000 Black residents. Most media coverage only focuses on the Masters golf tournament, treating the city like a private country club for 1 week in April. But look at the actual economy on the ground. Augusta is quietly pulling off a transition that other southern cities wish they could replicate. Fort Eisenhower has turned the area into the U.S. Army's Cyber Command headquarters. This brought an influx of defense contractors and cybersecurity jobs paying $80,000 to $100,000 plus. Meanwhile, the average rent is still hovering right around $1,200. Compared to Atlanta, that's less than half of what you'd pay for the exact same square footage. You don't see the aggressive outmigration or extreme gentrification happening here because the housing market hasn't decoupled from local wages. A lot of young cyber grads and military contractors moving here say they'd rather be bored on a Saturday night and own a house by 25 than be broke in a Tier 1 city. Sure, the downtown nightlife is quiet and it lacks the cultural gravity of bigger hubs, but stability is a massive asset right now. Gen Z and millennials are actually building generational equity here without drowning in a $3,000 mortgage. That's a huge deal for the local Black middle class. You walk through neighborhoods near the base and you see steady renovations, not rapid corporate flips. This dynamic dictates where families are choosing to settle long term. People are prioritizing a low cost of living over height. Augusta offers a very practical, if somewhat sleepy, economic ecosystem. It's a town that trades the fast life for a mortgage you can actually afford. And honestly, that's a trade a lot of people are willing to make, in dollars in value statewide. Add in the Airbus manufacturing facility, and there are high-paying blue-collar and engineering jobs here. However, the metro is highly fragmented. While outer suburbs like Saraland are seeing median home prices jump and new retail moving in, the core city and neighboring areas like Pritchard are struggling with high poverty rates and historical disinvestment. Compared to New Orleans, which actively leverages its port and its tourism to drive downtown revenue, Mobile struggles to market its culture effectively. The Black population percentage is ticking up mostly due to birth rates and a slow trickle of white residents moving to Baldwin County across the bay. One family I talked to works specialized jobs at Airbus, but commutes 40 minutes from the Eastern Shore just to get their kids into better public schools. That's a common theme here. This decentralization hurts the core city. It means the port prints maritime money, but the local workforce gets boxed out of the benefits because the tax dollars leak into neighboring counties. Mobile is a strategic logistics hub with a deep history, but the city struggles to translate that industrial wealth into neighborhood revitalization. If local leadership can bridge the gap between aerospace money and local workforce training, they could flip the script. Right now, it's a powerhouse on the water, but a struggle on the pavement. Port is retaining its youth. This is exactly why property values appreciate so slowly here. Home ownership is cheap, but the return on investment is minimal. It's an affordable metro with good medical infrastructure, but it desperately needs a new anchor industry. It's an easy place to buy a house, assuming you can actually find a career that justifies staying. Number 5, Columbus, Georgia. Columbus is one of the most stable economies on this list, but that stability comes with a ceiling. Coming in at number 5, it sits at 42.1%, representing about 137,000 Black residents. The economy here has a very specific profile. It is heavily anchored by Fort Moore. The military installation injects roughly $4.8 billion into the regional economy annually. Because of this, Columbus is highly recession resistant. When the rest of the country is stressing about tech layoffs or market crashes, this metro stays remarkably steady because the Department of Defense keeps the paychecks clearing. Aflac is also headquartered here, providing a solid corporate base. The trade-off for this stability is a lack of explosive growth. Average wages hover around the state median, and the job market is largely confined to defense contracting, healthcare, and insurance. Number 2, Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis keeps the entire country's supply chain moving, but can't keep its own neighborhood stable. Landing at number 2, it sits at 46.2% with over 612,000 Black residents. If you want to understand the US supply chain, you have to look at Memphis. With FedEx's global super hub and aggressive rail networks, roughly 1 in 5 jobs here is tied to logistics. It is an industrial powerhouse with a rich cultural footprint in music and food. The conflict here is how corporate wealth sits right next to severe neighborhood disinvestment. High violent crime rates in the core city have forced a massive shift in where people choose to live. Compared to Nashville's explosion of tech and finance money, Memphis is built purely on blue-collar muscle. A lot of families working warehouse and logistics jobs here tell me they end up moving 20 minutes out to South Haven, Mississippi, or Collierville just to avoid the crime, even if it means a longer commute. This is a huge factor. When working families cross county or state lines, it decentralizes the tax base, leaving inner city schools underfunded while the surrounding burbs build shiny new facilities. The Black demographic dominance here is a mix of deep historical roots and the fact that Nashville is pulling a lot of the state's new transplants away. This matters nationally because Memphis is a bellwether for working class Black wealth. If logistics workers can't safely buy homes near their jobs, the economic model of the city fundamentally breaks. Memphis has the raw corporate infrastructure to be incredibly wealthy. The jobs are there, and the pay is competitive. But the ongoing public safety issues act as a heavy ceiling on property values and small business growth. It's a city that moves the world's packages, but struggles to protect its own streets. Number one, Jackson, Mississippi. Jackson has one of the highest Black ownership rates in the country, but it's also one of the hardest places to build wealth. Taking the top spot, the metro is 48.5% Black with nearly 283,000 residents. The data here tells a complex story of systemic neglect and community resilience. Jackson has faced extreme infrastructure challenges, most notably a water system that requires over $1 billion in repairs. One thing is clear, the South isn't moving in one direction, it's splitting in two. Some metros are building real wealth and pulling people in. Others are slowly losing the very people that keep them running. And that gap? It's only getting wider. So the real question isn't just where people are living, it's where the future is actually being built. Which of these metros would you bet on long term? And more importantly, would you actually move there? Let me know in the comments.
What you think about that? All the Blacks coming back to the South. Some of those cities surprised me. You got anything on that?
Yes, sir, brother Leonard. Some of those cities surprised me too that they named. But then I guess as I keep thinking about it, it would make sense because I'm thinking about the cost of living in those cities would
Oh
be
yeah,
low. So yeah, so people like, whatever, I'll go there and have a lot of extra money.
exactly. Yeah, overcrowded.
Right.
Yeah, ain't that something? And I've been saying it over and over again. They was coming back this way before we leave here, and that's exactly what's happening. They're actually driving them back here. Okay.
Right.
So with that being said, we got our well. Let me see. I'll open it up for anybody with any questions, any comments, any dialogue or testimony before we go into our Tuesday night news briefing.
Uh, yes, sir. Brother Leonard, before I ask my question, which is in 2 Samuel 14, and in that clip that they just mentioned, when they had mentioned about those cyber jobs in Georgia, um,
Mm-hmm.
it made me think about, you remember like a while ago, it might even been in 2025, but it was a clip that was played one night about that cop city they was building in Atlanta.
Right,
Yeah, so it had made me think about that because all this stuff and all this building that they doing, it's not to benefit us.
right,
So
exactly.
yeah, yes, sir. So that it just made me think about that, those cyber jobs in those smart cities, because that cop city gonna be a smart city.
Yeah, and last night, I mean, it was Sunday night. We was talking about how they supposed to have this big bug tick infestation down in the South all of a sudden, where all the Blacks going. Ain't that something?
Right. Hmm.
Yeah. So even listening to this, you can see how they watching us, where we go, what we do. You know what I'm
Yes, sir.
saying? Yeah. So yeah. You got
But
anything else?
yes, sir. And then so my question in 2 Samuel 14, verses 17 and verses 20, not 17 through 20, just 17 and 20. I'm asking this question, Brother Leonard, if this is something that could be used for Genesis 3 and 5. Um, you where the uh where he's talking to Eve and he's saying you'll be as gods, knowing good and evil. And so in 2 Samuel 14 and 17, it says, Thine handmaid said, The word of my Lord the king shall now be comfortable. For as an angel of God, so is my Lord the king to discern good and bad. Therefore, the Lord thy God will be with thee. And then in verse 20, sir, says, To fetch about this form of speech, hath thy servant Joab done this thing, and my Lord is wise, according to the wisdom of an angel of God, to know all things that are in the earth. And so,
Okay.
yes, sir, it's so I'm sorry, Brother Lynn, I was asking, so what I'm at, so my real question though is in Genesis 5, but I was listening to a conversation today because this verse right here just tells me that angels discern between good and bad. The two precepts that I had just read,
Mm-hmm.
and then in Genesis 3 and verse 5, where it says, For God doeth know that in the day you eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, then ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. Would I be right to tie those previous verses to this one?
Yes, sort of, kind of, because of yeah, you can because of the God that they talking about in Genesis is Michael,
Right, yes, sir.
and then when you start talking dealing with David, David dealing with the same being, and so see he's getting even with Solomon. Remember what happened with Solomon? Solomon prayed for wisdom. He didn't pray for wealth and all that, but that was automatically given to him. But he prayed for wisdom, right?
Right, yes, sir.
So where did that wisdom come from?
The Lord of hosts.
So
Mike.
look what she said. Yeah, look what she said. You as an angel of the Lord.
Right.
So he's getting where he's getting his information and his knowledge from. He's operating. It's resonating on him.
Mm.
Same way with Moses. When Moses went up for the 40 days and 40 nights,
Right. Okay.
remember he came back. He had been in the presence of the Lord so long, just until they had put a cloth over his face because he had started resonating like the Lord of hosts.
Right. Okay. You're exactly right.
So that's the
Mhm.
same way these men acting. They moving like the Lord of hosts. So it's as an angel of the Lord because of when you understand they source where they getting their knowledge from and they understand it.
Mm. Right. Yes, sir.
That making sense?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Mhm.
Okay. And then, Brother Leonard, one more. I guess a statement question. When how you always telling me about how they denigrate our prophets and denigrate our forefathers,
Right,
and in reading the Psalms, as every time we be reading the Psalms, I realize David was always asking for wisdom as well. And that's actually where Solomon got it from.
right.
But they kind of don't shine that light on David. But even the same with Abraham, Brother Leonard. I can't remember
Hmm.
which book I was reading now. Maybe that's even in Genesis, but where Abraham invented the plow
Right.
um to farm with. And
Yeah. That
even
was in
that's
Jasher.
an example. You said in Jasher, sir?
Yeah, that's in Jasher.
Ah, okay, yeah, okay. Jasher. Okay, I'm gonna find that. Okay. But yes, sir, I was just comparing that, just thinking about the wisdom of the how they denigrate the Hebrew man, you know, because
Mm-hmm.
I was dealing with something today at work, but just it made me think about that as I was reading, just the intelligence that we have, and then why you know why they've done what they've done to throw off us knowing who we were and throw off our heritage.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I was having like I sort of kind of had that conversation today with I was trying to explain to this person that the Old and New Testament is two different totally books, and they are it's two different gods. It's God in the Old Testament, the same God in the New Testament, and the God in the Old Testament, he ain't talking in the New Testament. The powers that be, the people that hoodwinked it, got you thinking that's him, but that's not none of him. JC has nothing to do with the Hebrew Israelites and the Hebrew Israelite culture, and that's what they don't seem to get. And when that's explained to them, they can't receive it because they can't comprehend it because they're so brainwashed with uh, what's been given to them, uh, and they can't think outside that. Yeah.
Right, yes, sir. Because in Berlin, I hear that a lot with the um whether you tell people myself or just listening to other channels about the New Testament and the Old Testament,
Mm-hmm.
the origins of the writings of both books are literally from two different sets of people.
Exactly.
That I mean that makes all the difference in itself, and it I understand that statement that one was written originally in Greek, one
Right.
was written originally in the original language that
Exactly.
the Lord of Hosts created. It's not
Right.
a, you know, um, I don't understand what's hard to see about that.
Right. And the New Testament is plagiarized
Right,
off of the Old Testament. And when you understand that, that's why you got people that trying to connect it, talking about duality and all that. No, it's not. It's not duality. It's plagiarism. They used it. They used the Old Testament to make the New Testament legitimate, and they're using our culture, our ways, and our ways of our God, and synchronize it with what they've done in the New Testament. That's why you can be talking about something, and they'll say, "Well, see, a prime example when Moses was born, uh, the Pharaoh and the Egyptians was throwing the Egyptian uh, boys into the river. Well, when they concocted JC, they got Herod throwing boys in the river, and so
right,
they want to say, "Oh, see this." No, that's plagiarism.
hmm,
Ain't got nothing to do with no what happened with Herod and all that. That ain't have nothing to do with Moses. That's a copy, a type, like they call it typology. That's a type of what happened to Moses. They used it to legitimize JC when he was born. Okay, ain't that something?
right, yes, sir. And also in listening in on those same type of conversations, when I think about the Yah only people, like when I listen to like a Yah only person, and then versus someone who say they're a Christian or a Hebrew Christian, the Hebrew Christian can see that there's two powers, you know. But the Yah only person confuses the Lord of hosts and Yahweh, you know. But
Exactly.
I mean, and the Christian is confused too, but at least he can see that there is two beings there
Right.
in the
Exactly.
scriptures, and the Yah only doctrine refuses to see that.
Right. And the reason being is from observation, because like I said, go back to the typology, how they brought this character Jesus about was they synchronized it and used types in the Old Testament to bring him into existence. So he's a creation of the actual real redeemer. Yahweh is not the redeemer. Michael is the redeemer. So when you say, I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, when you say that the redeemer is the seen and Yahweh is the unseen God. Well, the redeemer long before JC came was Michael. So he's the seen that they're telling you is JC. The Israelites are dealing with the redeemer, which is Michael. And then when you understand who he is he who is like Yahweh. In the very beginning, the creator, he was the first being Most High created. Michael. He created, the very first thing he done was he created these 7 angels in order to deal with his creation. And the first one that he created was Michael, or formed. He formed them. These 7 angels, and not only did he form, the creator is a consuming fire. So from himself, he formed these 7 beings. The first one he formed was Michael El, which means he who is like Yahweh. And that in itself is a problem with a lot of people because they can't understand that he's moving. He's operating just like Yahweh. So when they concocted JC, that's where they got it from. And they used scripts and to remove him from the scriptures, put JC there. That's why the book of Enoch is not in the Bible, because it's going to explain that to you. If you said you searching for the truth, then that's the first thing you should do is go purchase a book of Enoch. But we've been brainwashed to and the book of Enoch been denigrated. So somebody that's searching, that's the last place they're gonna go is the book of Enoch, because they've been brainwashed to believe that it's not legitimate. But that's the missing part of the creation. Okay. Good. What you say? What you gonna say?
Oh, Shalom. Brother, I was gonna say too, it gets me when I'm seeing some of these people, they read Enoch too, but then they bring in the New Testament. And then that confuses me. Like how you read Jubilees, Jasher, Enoch, and the New Testament.
Right, exactly, right, because it's not been the missing element to all of that is when you're dealing with those books that they've tried to hide from us. You have to be dealing with the spirit of the Most High. You have to be dealing with the like I said, when Solomon prayed, he prayed to the Lord of hosts, and he gave him wisdom and knowledge. Where you got to have that same Lord of hosts when you start dealing with these other books, in order to rightly divide them. If you just reading them like other books you come across, it ain't gonna happen. But you read it with the spirit of the Most High on you, and thinking like a Hebrew, then all the dots are gonna be connected. A prime example I was talking today about was the Creator. He's a consuming fire. It says that when Abraham was put in the furnace, which a lot of people don't know, long before Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was put in the fire furnace, Abraham was put in the fire furnace. And when they put him in the fire furnace, a being came in that furnace that was made from fire. And he caused that fire that was they heated up in the furnace, it couldn't do nothing to Abraham. Then it turned around, that same fire turned around and attacked the people that was all around the furnace, which is unusual. Fire don't act like that. But so what I'm saying is, it's a living fire. And so that was the Lord of hosts, which is Michael. So Yahweh being a consuming fire, he can't deal with no human beings. Because just like he just said, he's gonna reach out and consume you. He can't deal with you. There's nothing on the earth that can deal with him. So he had to create these 7 angels in the very beginning. That's who's in Genesis 1:26. When he said, let us make man. And so yeah, so when you understand that, that's the fire, that's the spirit, that's the fire that you gotta be dealing with in order to deal with these scriptures. Okay.
Right, yes, sir. And that just and I heard you trying to tell somebody about the that's where the man comes from, where we have the image of a man
Right,
from the
exactly.
angels, and the angels get the image from Yahweh and
Right,
Ezekiel.
exactly. The first man, the reason why it's the reason why you have the image of a man at all is because the creator is the image of he's the image of a man. That's where the image of a man came from, him, which is in Ezekiel chapter 1. He's when Ezekiel goes out his way to explain to you what the creator looked like. He's a consuming fire from his waist up with his waist down. There's no flesh on him. He ain't got no belt, no golden belt girded around him, and none of that. No eyes like flames of fire. No, he's a flame. He's shaped like a man, but he's a consuming fire. There's no flesh on him at all. And so from him, he created these 7 angels, Els, lesser beings than him, but they like him. They come from him. He formed them from himself. Then when you understand that, you look at how it unfolded. He is a consuming fire, no flesh, none of that on him. The angels is they have a body. They have a body, but you can see within their eyes, and they have eyes of flaming fire. That's because they are cut off of the real fire. Then you come to man. That's why it says in Genesis 1:26, let us make man. Not Yahweh. Let us make man. They made man. They had those abilities. So man don't look like the angels, and the angels don't. They have a silhouette of a man, but they have their different cuts off of the real thing, which is Yahweh, a consuming fire. He's nothing on him because he's fire, consuming fire.
And so brother Leonard, so people confusing the verse, right? When that commandment where it says, do not make an image of anything or make an image of God. But that image that Ezekiel saw in the vision, I mean, he's seen the Most High. That's what he's seen. It's not he created. It's not like he can't say what he saw in the vision,
Right,
and that's
exactly.
against the commandment.
Right.
That's because everybody got that debate spirit. That's how everybody takes that verse, but there's no way that's what that means.
No, exactly. And the crazy part about the whole thing, they want to, like I say, everybody wants to. You get in a conversation with them, they jump from the creation story all the way to Jesus. With all the information that's in the scriptures that you need to deal with, they jump from there to go to Jesus. I was talking to somebody today. We be talking about Adam and how Adam was made and who made Adam and how he formed. They go from that to Jesus. Well, damn, you didn't bypass Enoch, you didn't bypass Noah, Abraham, all them. What Jesus got to do with it? If you say he a man, all these men. But all of a sudden, here come this guy. He's a man too, but he's greater than all these other men. And on top of that, Enoch was so righteous, he never sinned. He was taken up. So when you understand that, like I said, with typology, who is it? Who's greater? They tell you Jesus never sinned. Come on. But he go, man, he's so great. He's so full of righteousness, he was taken up to heaven.
And he didn't have to die, Brother Leonard.
Right, he ain't died yet. Yeah, so that's I mean, it's just ludicrous, man. Like I say, in 2026, if you're dealing with that New Testament and that concoction of JC, is shameful, especially to be called a Israelite. Call yourself a Hebrew Israelite, awakened Hebrew Israelite. Ain't that something?
I agree.
Oh yeah, it's beyond shameful. Okay. Yeah. You got anything else?
Shalom to be Muslim too is you know
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
we
Right.
should know by now. You should know by now that they ain't doing nothing for us either. You know,
Right.
and Brother Leonard, I'm sorry, I didn't know if you was gonna get into that. Iran video was sent out.
The one I sent out. Yeah. Nah. Yeah, we can talk about it. What you got?
Oh, okay, yeah. Cause just to your point just now, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, for you to be Muslim and then say you seen those claims of those Hebrews living in Persia, like that video was saying, right? They
Right.
said they were sons of the covenant, ones that stayed there and went there after Cyrus let our forefathers go back. Some of them stayed there
Right.
or they
Yeah.
went
So
back.
let's read it. Let's read that
Okay.
right quick. That's like I was saying. It's some things you can't talk about until they alluded to. Then you can shine a light on it. So I'm always going to this. I was telling the guy earlier that he alluded to. He knew that Jeremiah wasn't talking to us, but then he come right around and said the branch in that same in chapter 23, that branch out of David is Jesus. Well, you just said
Right.
that he been talking to us. So who is this person, this branch? He's talking about it's the Zerubbabel. And you go to you go to Ezra. Let me go there right quick. So when you go to so it was prophesied in Daniel 9:25 that they in captivity in Babylon. He prophesied that the temple was going to be built again, and unto the Messiah, and the temple going to be built again, and the wall is going to be raised. So we know that Nehemiah left from Babylon with a group of people, and he went back. He's the one that was rebuilding the wall. And so, who is this? Who is this Messiah that's in Daniel 9:25? Every king in Israel has to be anointed. That's where you get Messiah from. So Zerubbabel, you go back to Ezra chapter 1, and there was in Daniel 9:25 was a commandment was going to be the signal, the sign. A man was going to come forth and make a commandment for all Israelites to go back to Jerusalem in Babylon. That's all Israelites waiting on that. So it happened right here in Ezra chapter 1. Now in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah, like I said, the Lord stirred up the spirit in order to bring about this prophecy that he had foretold. He stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, that he made a proclamation, the commandment, that's in Daniel 9:25, throughout all his kingdom and put it in writing, right? Then he says, thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord God of heaven, have given me all the kingdoms of the earth. Check it out. You have given me all the kingdoms of the earth and charged me. Israel's God charged Cyrus to build him a house in Jerusalem, which is in Judea. Now here you go, what you were just talking about. That he gave the proclamation that if you wanted to go back, see what it says. Who is there among you of all his people? His God be with him, and let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Judea, and build the house of God, of the Lord God of Israel. He is the God which is in Jerusalem. So he let them know, and all these prophets and the lost this so-called lost prophecy, the lost 10 tribes, that's a concoction, a lie. Because right here, Cyrus, after he took over the Babylonian kingdom, he took over 179, 72 provinces. The southern kingdom is in the province of Shushan, and the northern kingdom, which was taken earlier before them, is in Assyrian province. The Syrians took them there. So all of them, when he says right here, all, verse 2, thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord God of heaven hath given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he hath charged me to build them a house in Jerusalem, which is the Judea. Who is there among you of all his people? So there ain't no lost 10 tribes. Cyrus controlled all 12 tribes. The 10 tribes in Assyria and the southern kingdom was in Shushan, the province of Shushan. So he just gave them all, he gave the commandment fulfilling Daniel 9:25, they can all go back. If they wanted to, that means all of them ain't go back. That's what that solidified what was on the video that we was listening to. Okay?
Right.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And so, Brother Leonard, it's crazy how like claims like that, how people are still doubting who we are, because like in the video, and I'm saying like Pan-African people that's Muslim, Hebrews that don't know they're Hebrews, because like in the video he was saying that all these other nations know who y'all are. How come y'all do?
Exactly. And then another thing too, I've been pondering on that. I was thinking about that when you understand when Nebuchadnezzar came on the scene, and he fulfilled what Isaiah and Jeremiah had prophesied that people from the north was going to come to Jerusalem, and so he did just that. So three different waves, three different situations happened. He came to Jerusalem 3 times, and in the process of those 3 times, he transported all the Israelites, predominantly most of the Israelites, back to Babylon. Well, Jeremiah also said that after they dwelled in Babylon for 70 years, the God of Israel was going to judge Nebuchadnezzar and that kingdom, the Chaldeans. So after 70 years, he judged them, and he said the Israelites are going to come back. Well, they came back the same way they went, in 3 ways. So you have to when you look at that, you have to consider what's going on now, because of you got people like we say it's 2026, it's the Middle East on fire, and you got Negroes still fumbling with the New Testament. So you got to look at the waves. See what I'm saying? So you got a group that they see what the Lord of hosts is doing, and they tuned in. They thinking like a Hebrew. Well, by the time you get to the 3rd wave, well, that information, and the events that then transpired, a lot of them then woke up after that. So I've been looking at that, because right now you got a majority of these people, of these Israelites, they in the dark. They half-ass sort of kind of know they Israelites, but they're not understanding that that's just that's like 101, knowing you're a Hebrew Israelite in 2026. You gotta, your God is what that's what it's all about. And like I said, he turned his face from us. He didn't show up in the New Testament laying hands on people and healing people. He cast Israel off, and he went back up on the right hand side of the Father where he came from, Michael. And that's why we in the predicament we in, because he's taking this authority away and his protection. And he said, in the last days, You're gonna seek me, and then you're gonna find me. So it can't be JC, because right after the Israelites was driven out of their homeland, that's when he showed up. When the God is in the Old Testament gave Israel up, hid his face from them. Okay, and like I said before, Baboon can see that, especially after it's explained to you. Okay.
Yes, sir. And brother Lennon, my last comment, sir, is just that I think I can see the intentions behind everybody who called themselves teaching or seeking knowledge by if they're really searching for who the God of the Hebrew Israelites are. To me, knowing the feast days and all of that is cool, but that's like, you work at a job and you don't know who your boss is.
Right.
That, you know what I'm saying? I don't know how you can be talking about Israelite knowledge and you don't know who the God of the Israelites is.
Exactly. Right. And he continues to over and over again emphasize that fact, that very fact about knowing who he is. Yeah. Okay. You got anything else you want to bring up?
Shalom, no sir.
Okay. Yeah. So, like I said, we started a bit maybe a couple of months ago on dealing with this, having these Tuesday night Tanak and news briefings, and the purpose of the objective of these uh, briefings is to I'm combining the Tanakh, the Old Testament, the current events, and the end time events, and because of a lot of the things that were prophesied in the Old Testament that's not being fulfilled, they're being fulfilled right now because we in the end times, and we dealing with a system that's put in place where uh, news is being recorded on a daily basis, and so that news uh, is uncovering the truth of the Most High has said and what he prophesied through his prophets. And that's the reason why I started doing this Tanakh and news briefing. Okay, so my first video is right here. Let me play it. Okay, so like I said before, with Israel, it's been told, it's been said over and over again that when Israel returns, whenever that happens, it's not going to be war no more. Well, these people been back, these so-called people that's been back since 1948, the same ones that lied to us and gave us the New Testament, are saying that they the Israelites, and they've been back since 1948. It's been number wars after wars after wars. So, like I said, Baboon can see that they ain't the real people, because there ain't none of that, none of it's adding up. So let's look at this right here. That brings me to this particular news.
On Israel, from Poland to Turkey to South Korea, Japan. I mean, even Asian nations are jumping in on this, to European nations, Spain, Italy, Germany even, which is something else, because Germany usually just gives Israel a complete pass for anything and everything, feeling like it cannot criticize, should not criticize. Oh, but they're starting to criticize. Let's start off with Poland. A Polish MP displayed the Israeli flag, but the Israeli flag looks a little bit different. Watch this.
So he said, so the scripture tells us in the last days a whore gonna be in Israel, perpetrating to be the Israelite. And the whole world eventually was gonna expose them, and they was gonna hate the whore. So that's what we're looking at right here.
Poles are already feeling Israel's attacks in the Middle East through fuel prices, but how do children feel it when dozens of times more have died than in the entire war in Ukraine? It's because the Jews are using a forbidden phosphorus bomb which depletes oxygen from the air and leads to their death by suffocation. More, the smoke from this bomb gets into the lungs and burns them from within. They suffocate and burn from the inside at the same time. Tens of thousands of women and children. But if some child is lucky and doesn't suffocate, white phosphorus will stick to their cheek, to their hand, and burns through the tissues right down to the bone. It cannot be extinguished, so the cheek must be cut off, the hand amputated. Israel is committing, right before our very eyes, a genocide of truly horrific and exceptional cruelty. Israel is the new Third Reich, and its flag should look exactly like that. Ooh! Thank you so much.
What's interesting is that people in the crowd, the rest of the MPs didn't gasp in shock when they saw that. They instead sat there and they looked at it, and then they seemed to cheer. So people are feeling like, yes, Israel is acting like Nazis. Here's Turkey. Erdogan compares Bibi to Hitler.
We go Turkey.
Israel's stalling and deception should not be given any more credit. In the absence of the implementation of UN Security Council Resolution number 2735, coercive measures against Israel should be put on the agenda. Israel's behavior has once again demonstrated that it is imperative for the international community to develop a protection mechanism for Palestinian civilians.
You've all been genocidal maniacs this whole time. None of you are our friends. And now that the Asians are turning against them, what are they going to say about the Asians? Are they going to say, now it's the Buddhists? The Buddhists have always persecuted the Jews. I don't know. Maybe. But here is the South Korean president. This is Jae-myung. And he says, I need to look into whether this is true. And if so, what measures have been taken? The forced comfort women issue that we are raising is no different from the Jewish massacre or wartime. Is that really what that says? Yeah. Or wartime killings. It's a bad translation. But essentially what he's referring to is he shares this video and he basically says, I need to look into whether or not this is true. This is the video. Viewer discretion be advised. This is a group of IDF soldiers throwing a Palestinian off a roof. Points out Jared Kushner, and they're like, now why is Jared Kushner even involved at all in these peace talks? Watch this.
Here are the individuals who are expected to be present. First, on the American side, we have Special Envoy Witkoff, who has been involved in negotiations with Iran, Mr. Kushner, President Trump's son-in-law, and Vice President Vance, who is said to have opposed intervention in Iran. Meanwhile, from the Iranian side, we anticipate Speaker of Parliament Ghalibaf, the former commander of the Revolutionary Guard, and Foreign Minister Arakchi. Well, in these two countries.
And then I have a very straightforward question. If you could enlighten me about Mr. Kushner, who is among the American delegation attendees. By what authority is he there? What exactly is this person? Trump's, his son-in-law. So, in other words, is he participating as a representative of the Trump family? That's the only way it appears to me. And what's more, he's Jewish, isn't he? So, concerning these discussions with Iran, I actually get the feeling that it might be better if some people weren't even involved. I've always wondered who this person is, coming in with the title of son-in-law in such a position.
I like how that.
Okay, what you think?
Shalom, Brother Leonard. Well, I think they just mentioned his ties, you know, him being Jewish.
Exactly.
Kushner, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So this next video I'm talking about, I'm playing is, it's got to do with what's getting ready to happen. A lot of people can't see it, but let me play it and then we'll talk about it. Got two videos pertaining to this subject. Okay.
Europe is set to begin energy lockdowns in the next few weeks. A few weeks ago, Russia actually predicted this. They said that Europe was about to impose these restrictions, and now here we are. According to multiple reports, here you go, Financial Times, Brussels pushes remote working to ease energy crisis. Sounds fun, and they put a cat in the photo, like You'll be home with your cat, so no big deal. Just get a big fluffy
Look
cat.
how happy she is there.
She's so happy to be with her cat.
Does she have a warm beverage too?
She's got a nice little plant.
Oh
and a
man,
cat.
I want to work there too.
Yeah,
Yeah, I want to work there too.
Now all you need is like a puppy or like a nice warm bed. So the EU is pushing remote work now to tackle energy crisis. Brussels wants to start by introducing one mandatory workday from home per week as these energy prices continue and keep rising. Ursula von der Leyen just a few days ago already was laying the groundwork for this. Listen.
Is how can we reduce the demand? Because of course the least expensive energy is the energy that is not used. We should reduce demand while...
Yeah, we should reduce demand. Of course, Jim Ferguson joins us now from the UK. He has been watching this very, very closely. Jim, of course, is the founder of Freedom Train International and one of the keenest observers of this globalist tyranny that's unfolding. Jim, great to see you. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks a lot, Clayton. It's always good to be on with you and Natalie. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure. Well, you might, next time we see you, have to be working from home. So we wouldn't have a chance to have you in a studio because of these new laws. But, you know, I think any idiot could have looked at this and seen that this was going to come from the EU, from Europe, that these energy restrictions were going to start flowing. And here we are. What do you think, just broadly at a big picture level, of what this is going to mean for the people of Europe?
Well, from a strategic viewpoint, the pressures on the supplies are quite critical. We've been hearing about jet fuel running out in Europe in the next 6 weeks, and that was reported a week or so ago. I wrote an article about 3 weeks ago on the potential for energy lockdowns. I think really, if you want to take it from a strategic viewpoint, it's this. When governments start trying to manage demand, it tells you everything, because it basically means if they're managing demand, it's because they're unsure about managing the supply. And that's going to affect things on a massive scale, not just in Europe. It's already impacting truckers and farmers in Australia, with food prices due to rise probably within the next 3 weeks by about 20 to 30%. Hard-pressed families are already feeling the struggle already. So when that happens, because farmers use so much diesel to get the crops to market, to harvest them, and then the trucks have to supply them, that is going to put critical pressure on those supply chains. And there are warnings now that there could be food shortages as well. Indeed, I went into the local supermarket there just a couple of days ago, and I started to see shelves that were starting to empty. Now, one thing people don't always realize is that the tins of beans and soups and other things that are canned products are usually from last year's harvest, which means it takes that length of time to get them out and developed and produced and into market and into the shops. What could happen is it will most likely put up food prices dramatically, but it could cause real shortages. But the following year is when we might see it really escalating if they don't sort out this mess in the Straits of Hormuz and free up that international global shipping route.
Okay, so that's what's happening in Europe. You see lockdowns, empty shelves, running out of jet fuel, gas, and all this, right? So here we go, right here.
Live here in the United States, you need to be prepared for lockdowns to happen very soon. Now, here's what's interesting, because something strange is happening across the country. Now, nobody's forcing Americans to stay home. Not right now. But there's no mandate. There's no shutdown. There's no official lockdown. But flights are currently being canceled. People are skipping vacations. Families are pulling back on driving. Workers are being told to stay home. Some say that right there looks like the beginning of a lockdown. More and more Americans are choosing just to stay home, not because they want to, but because they feel like they have to. They can't afford to go anywhere else. Now, this isn't an official lockdown, but it might be the closest thing we have seen since 2020. And that.
Okay. So what do you think about that? It's like the handwriting on the wall, huh? What do you think?
Right, yes, sir. And I think they, like he said, it's not an official mandate, but they created all the conditions to make most people stay in one place because
Right.
they don't got the money for it.
Exactly. And eventually they're gonna have it's gonna be a lockdown.
Right.
Okay? Yeah.
Exactly.
Check this out.
What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Why the national debt may be affecting you personally a lot more than you realize. We're going to go over that here in this video, as well as President Donald Trump's promise to cap credit card interest rate at 10%. Yeah, so let's jump right in here. We're live here at the It's Jimmy show on YouTube. Let me know if you can see and hear me. Type yes in the chat. Let me know where you're tuning in from, your city, state, or even your country. Take a short look back at the national debt here. Just a few months after hitting $37 trillion, the national debt reached $38 trillion in just 2 months. The fastest accumulation of $1 trillion in debt outside of the pandemic. This is a major milestone because the government is racking up debt faster than you can count it. And we've gone from $37 trillion to $38 trillion to now $39.1 plus trillion dollars. And this is affecting the average person more than you may think. This is $357,000 of debt per taxpayer in the United States, an insurmountable amount. Executive Vice President of Policy at the Peter G. Peterson Foundation said, "This debt is like a boa constrictor squeezing its prey. The debt is slowly doing the same to the American economy. Quote, the squeeze comes in the form of slower growth, less job creation, higher costs of borrowing for consumers, buying homes, or businesses invested in equipment. All of these are consequences of higher debt." Now, one major factor that is affecting the debt at the national level and your personal debt are interest rates and the Fed controlling interest rates. And while most of us want to see lower interest rates so that they can pay down their personal debt, pay down their credit cards, then the government would actually pay less debt. However, that can also lead to higher inflation, so it's a sticky situation. And right now, the Fed is saying they're not sure if they can even lower rates because of the inflation right now, and they may have to even raise rates in the near future. Stops paying. But we have not seen President Donald Trump come through with a 10% cap on interest rates. With the pros and the cons for it, we just have not seen it. And the other issue here is that the Fed may be forced to stop lowering interest rates because of how bad inflation is. Many people which think that inflation is higher than the government is telling us at only 3%. Most people aren't buying that, and they think that something is either wrong with the data or they're flat out lying to us. What do you?
Okay. Got anything on that?
Shalom, yes sir. Where where Trump saying he gonna do that, right, brother Leonard? Well, dude is showing and explaining America ain't gonna, that's gonna hurt the economy basically.
Exactly.
So he the man for the job, like they said, like you've been saying, bring it on down.
Exactly. They hired him for the job.
Right, exactly. What you demo job?
Right. He's a demo man.
Strait of Hormuz, 21 miles wide at its narrowest point. Every single day, 20% of the world's oil supply and 20% of the world's liquefied natural gas passes through that choke point. Right now, in April 2026, Iran is charging oil tankers a transit fee to pass through, $1 per barrel of cargo. A very large crude.
So right here, this is confirming the fact that pretty much they already the petrodollar already collapsed, and we see the beginning of the yuan being the currency, #1 currency. Check it out.
Carrier with 2 million barrels on board owes $2 million per transit. And Iran accepts payment in only two things, Bitcoin or Chinese yuan. No US dollars accepted. Iran's National Security Committee passed legislation formally codifying this fee structure. At least 2 vessels have already paid in yuan. China's Ministry of Commerce acknowledged the transactions publicly. Deutsche Bank's FX strategy team, one of the most respected macro research desks on the planet, issued a formal note to clients warning that this conflict could be remembered as a key catalyst for erosion in petrodollar dominance and the beginnings of the petro-yuan. This is not a theory. This is not speculation. This is documented, verified, and happening in real time. And it is converging with something even bigger that China has been quietly building for years, a parallel financial architecture designed to move global capital without a single dollar involved. In 2026, that architecture just hit record scale. Before we go deeper, hit subscribe right now. This channel covers the macro financial shifts that never get with Saudi Arabia. Oil would be priced exclusively in dollars globally. In exchange, America provided military protection to the Saudi regime. Within 2 years, the rest of OPEC followed. This arrangement, the petrodollar, became the backbone of American financial dominance for 50 years. Because oil is the world's most traded commodity, every nation on earth that needed energy needed to accumulate and hold dollars first. That structural demand for the dollar suppressed US borrowing costs, financed American deficits at cheap rates. UAE officials this week publicly acknowledged they may be forced to use yuan or other currencies for oil transactions if dollar availability tightens amid the ongoing conflict. The UAE, whose currency is pegged to the dollar, is openly signaling contingency planning around yuan. That is not a minor footnote. That is America's most important Middle Eastern energy partner, expressing doubt about exclusive dollar reliance in real time. In public, on the record, rehook. Stay locked in, because the bond market data that just dropped is where this becomes a direct financial crisis for the United States, not just a geopolitical story. In Q1 2026, the first 3 months of this year, foreign panda bond issuance in China hit 89 billion yuan, equivalent to approximately $13 billion. That is nearly half of all of 2025's entire annual total accomplished in just 1 quarter. In March 2026 alone, monthly panda bond issuance tripled year on year, reaching 27.8 billion yuan in a single month. Total yuan-denominated financing by foreign borrowers hit a record 218 billion yuan in the opening weeks of 2026, already exceeding the entire 2025 full-year total. Panda bonds are yuan-denominated bonds sold inside China's domestic market by foreign entities. When a foreign government, bank, or corporation issues a panda bond, they are borrowing in Chinese yuan, operating inside China's financial system, and creating demand for yuan assets rather than dollar assets. It is the bond market equivalent of choosing to bank in Beijing instead of New York. And the list of who is doing this right now is striking. Kazakhstan issued its first ever panda bond, 3 billion yuan. Slovenia became the first Eurozone sovereign to issue panda bonds, 4 billion yuan. The New Development Bank issued 7 billion yuan in panda bonds in April 2026 alone, bringing its cumulative total to 87.5 billion yuan.
Okay. You got anything on that? You been hearing anything about that?
Well, yes, sir. I think you kind of been talking about that, right? Everybody using the using China's currency to sell the oil.
Like man was saying, this thing that's going on with Iran is all about the transfer.
Right.
Okay.
And Brother Leonard too, excuse me, that information from that video you sent out, got me thinking Iran also did that on purpose as well, like putting out the information who we are, even though I know it had came out last year too. But even that video you just sent was kind of a little bit more in depth than just that they opened the vaults last year.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Oh yeah. Right. And so they just all they doing, when you understand what's going on, all they doing is circling the wagon. That's all they doing.
Right.
So, yeah. So check this out.
And how it's about to affect the entire world, because I think we're being lied to.
Somebody shorted the oil market today by hundreds of millions of dollars exactly 20 minutes before Trump made his announcement that everything was going to be great. And if you see that once, it could be a coincidence. But that's happened at least 3 times, if not more, since the war began. That's a pattern.
The theory is that all of this back and forth about the strait is open, the strait is closed, well, then it's open, and now it's closed again. It's actually really easy to explain. It's a way for insiders to manipulate the stock markets. Because last Friday, we were told the Strait of Hormuz was finally open, which is a huge reason why the price of paper oil went way down and the markets rallied to a new all-time high. Only to find out that over the weekend, that's not the case at all. And the strait is still very much closed. And maps are showing a lot of the ships were being routed back, and now no ships are allowed to pass. Now, there's also a lot of really weird things starting to happen as well. Like, for example, there seems to be a virus that's infecting the world's gas infrastructure. There are now dozens and dozens of energy pipelines that have caught fire or accidentally exploded. And this dates all the way back from March of this year, and it's happening all across the world. And because all of this flow of energy is not allowed to move freely, there are now warnings that the world is about to go through a really bad recession.
The International Monetary Fund is warning of a worldwide recession if the war in the Middle East doesn't end soon. If the conflict drags on, the IMF says energy and food prices will spike higher, stunting economic growth across the globe.
Now, hold on. Maybe everything will be fine for the US, right? Because we're told that the US is a net exporter of oil. But the reality is that the United States actually imports more crude oil than it exports. And here's the math. We bring in about 6.3 million barrels a day and send out about 4.1 million. That makes us a net importer, aka consumer, of 2.2 million barrels a day. You can't be a net importer of something and also be the world's supplier of it. That math just doesn't make sense. And all of this confusion about how much we actually have or don't have is exactly why the price of oil is 2 completely different numbers depending on where you look. One of those numbers is the paper price. The other is the price oil actually costs in the real world if a country needs a barrel delivered to it today. And the gap between those 2 numbers is about $35, which is the biggest spread ever recorded in history.
When we talk about commodities, there is a huge difference between what you see on the screen and how much you pay to get that commodity. So you see the screen, $90 a barrel. Good luck if you get an oil barrel for $90. It's 120, 130, 140, 150, 160 even.
The paper price of oil is what's called Brent futures. That's sitting at around $100 a barrel. If you Google what oil is worth right now, that is the number you're going to be shown. But the physical price, which is what it actually costs to buy a real barrel of oil that gets put onto a real ship and delivered to a real refinery, that costs over $130, depending on the day. That is called dated Brent, which is oil for actual physical delivery 10 to 30 days in the future. Now the question is, why does this gap exist and what does it mean? And the reason the gap exists is because the people who need actual oil right now are paying whatever it takes to get it. But the paper market is still pretending everything is fine. How come? The theory is that it's because the paper markets are being used as a mechanism to suppress the price of oil psychologically to calm the markets down. Here's a chart from JP Morgan. It shows that spread going back to 2008. And for almost 20 years, those 2 prices, paper oil and physical oil, basically moved together. They were maybe $1 or $2 apart, maybe $5 in a crisis, but the gap right now is way outside of anything we've ever seen. And the last time something even close to this happened was during COVID, when oil went negative for a very short time, but that's what economists called a demand collapse, when nobody was buying anything because nobody was traveling. This is the opposite. This is a supply emergency. Now, unfortunately, peace talks and negotiations have failed, which means the war is technically not over. But the White House is taking a victory lap, and the stock market is coming back up. We're told everything is going to be fine, and the US just became the world's gas station again. But the data is telling us something is going very wrong, and I think the worst of it probably hasn't hit us at the gas pump yet. The effects are starting to be felt in different parts of the world, but not in the US yet. So in this video, I want to help explain exactly what I think is going on and when all of this actually starts to affect us at the gas pump and in the stock market. So with that said, let's get into it. Hi, my name is Andre Jick. Hope you're doing well. Come for the finance and stay for the world when it's your turn to be an adult. Do you remember watching Interstellar when they landed on that one planet and they were like, oh, look, mountains. But it turned out those weren't mountains. It was a giant tsunami. That's kind of how I'm seeing the world right now. The effect of this war has sort of been set in motion, and we're looking around and we're seeing the mountains, and the market seems fine, and oil is not that much more expensive, but on the horizon, something is coming. What is that something, and when is it getting here? So there's a couple questions I'm trying to understand. Like, how bad is the oil shortage right now? Which parts of the world are going to feel it first? And what's happening in the global bond market? And how will this affect the investment markets, if at all? Because the stock market seems to be doing just fine. Okay, let's start with how much oil is now missing. So all of this, of course, goes back to the Strait of Hormuz, where a fifth of the whole world's oil and gas used to go through every single day. And remember, oil is not just gasoline. Oil is how food gets to grocery stores. It's how factories run. It's how planes fly and ships move and fertilizer gets produced, right? And plastics get made. Oil is the plumbing system of the whole economy. And so the question is, how much oil is now missing and how much does the world need? Turns out the world uses about 100 million barrels of oil every single day. That's at full capacity.
Okay. Okay.
Between 8 to 13 million barrels of that per day. That doesn't sound like much, but it's a lot. For context, the United States uses about 20 million barrels a day. So we're talking about losing the equivalent of half of America's daily oil usage. This is every day for weeks now. Now, one energy fund manager I came across put a specific number on the total damage, which is that the world will have lost 780 million barrels over the course of this conflict. Now, for context, the whole U.S. SPR, Strategic Petroleum Reserve, holds about 400 million barrels, but it was already half empty before the war started. So we're talking about losing twice the entire emergency reserves the United States spent decades saving up. Now, obviously, countries have prepared for stuff like this, but they still won't have enough to cover what was lost without paying those higher prices. For example, US spare capacity is at about 1 million barrels a day. Venezuela, under 1 million. Canada, via Pacific routes, under 1 million. And if you add every alternative together, you'll get about 2.8 million barrels per day from all the temporary emergency stockpiles. 2.8 million barrels against a whole of 8 to 13 million, which means reserves will eventually run out and there will be a shortage. So then, when is the world going to start feeling the effect of this missing oil? And according to the best research I was able to find, most likely sometime in mid to late April is when those global oil supplies run out. We are in mid-April right now. So the next question is, which countries are going to start to feel the effects of all of this first? Okay, so the effect of this whole blockade is already happening to the rest of the world right now. And the tsunami's coming, but it's affecting certain countries more than others. Asia, for example, got hit first and the hardest. Deliveries to Asia basically stopped on April 1st. And Asia sources roughly 80% of its oil from the Persian Gulf. What's getting through right now is only about 6% of pre-war volumes. Now, the Philippines was also one of the first countries to declare their national emergency after their gas prices more than doubled almost overnight. Indonesia and Vietnam told people to work from home to conserve fuel. In Thailand, their fishing industry, which is about 1% of their whole economy, is shutting down because marine fuel costs went up by 250%. In Japan, bus and ferry services are slowing down because of fuel shortages. In India, the government stopped LPG supplies for commercial use to protect household cooking fuel. In Mumbai, roughly 20% of hotels and restaurants had already been shut down by early March. In Africa, last deliveries to Africa stopped on April 10th. Countries like Ethiopia, Zimbabwe, South Sudan, they're now literally diluting their petrol. They're mixing it with other chemicals to stretch what's left. And they're also restricting electricity. Australia's last fuel shipment is expected to arrive April 19th. They've already released their national reserves, they've cut fuel taxes, and they put together a national security plan. Then there's Europe. Their deliveries stopped around April 10th as well, which is why they're doing everything in their power to reduce demand.
How can we reduce the demand? Because of course the least expensive energy is the energy that is not used.
So that's not looking good. The dominoes are starting to fall. But what about the United States? JP Morgan says we're basically the last in line to be affected, with most deliveries expected to have stopped on April 15th. The final crude cargoes reached Texas on April 1st and California on April 8th, which means the buffer that's been protecting us from feeling this at the gas pump, that buffer's gone. So the question is, how many more weeks of this can we expect before oil prices react and we actually start to feel it? JP Morgan puts a specific date on when this will happen. The last tanker to clear Hormuz before the closure was February 28th. That ship is expected to reach its final destination around April 20th. That is the moment JP Morgan says pre-closure barrels are fully used up from the global supply chain, and after that, there's no more buffer. And what that means is the physical price and the paper price will have to converge. Now hold on. If all of this is already happening, why is the paper price of oil still pretty low, especially after we learned that ceasefire talks failed? Oil prices should have gone up, right? But they went down. And the best theory that explains this suggests that someone placed huge bets that oil prices would fall around the ceasefire announcement. In fact, they're doing an investigation into it. Those are called short positions. Now remember, a short position in oil futures means that eventually, when that contract expires, you either close it out or you have to actually deliver physical oil. And the theory is that the ceasefire may have been partially engineered to give whoever placed those shorts one last window to exit their positions before the physical reality makes the paper price really impossible to hold. And Chris Martenson, who I cited earlier in this video, made a prediction about this. He said whoever it is that's dumping paper oil futures cannot.
Okay.
When the time comes, and maybe they don't have any intention of delivering it.
Right now, the oil price is being heavily contained and capped by someone. Everybody knows that it's the United States government somehow, either directly or through proxies, has been actively suppressing the price of oil, which they can only do for about another week here before it starts to really blow up on them, figuratively speaking.
What that means is someone is selling promises of oil at $100 a barrel, knowing they will never actually produce said oil. They're using the paper market as a psychological tool to calm the market down. But when those contracts come due, when the buyer says, okay, where's my oil? There will be a forced buying event. The entity that sold those contracts will have to buy them back at whatever the market price is at that moment. So if physical oil is at 130 or 140 or whatever it is, that's what they'll pay. That will be a short squeeze. And it's one of the mechanisms that can cause the paper price to catch up to the physical price very, very fast. Now, the next question is, what happens to the market? This is not the first time in US history where there was an oil crisis, because it's happened before. Now, there is a famous saying in investing that says, the past is not a guarantee of future results. Just because something happened in the past doesn't mean it's going to happen again. But they also say, even though history doesn't repeat itself, it does sometimes rhyme. So it's worth taking a look at what history tells us we should expect. Here's a chart I want to show you that I think is one of the most important things you'll see in this video. It compares the three major oil supply shocks of the last 50 years side by side. There was 1973, 1990, and right now. And what happened to the stock markets and the economy in each case. Now, in 1973, the Arab oil embargo took about 7% of the world's oil supply offline. Oil prices then went up 300%. The stock market went down by 52% over 23 months. It took 7 years to recover. Inflation peaked at 12.3%. And that was with 7% of supply offline. In 1990, the Gulf War took a similar 7% offline. Oil went up 75%, stocks went down 21%, but they recovered in about 4 months because the war ended and the supply came back really fast. Mild recession, inflation peaked at 6.3%. But now look at 2026. Supply offline, 15 to 20%. That is more than double either of the previous crises. Oil futures up over 100%, physical oil up over 200% from before the war, and the duration so far, 7 weeks with no clear resolution. So even in the best case scenario in 1990, that was a 21% stock market correction and an 8-month recession. Now the market today is at an all-time high, or somewhere close to it. It's pricing in 0 corrections and 0 recessions. Right now, Wall Street is telling us that this is going to play out perfectly with no side effects to anyone. And maybe it will, but history says otherwise. Now, Luke Groman points out, in 1973, markets stayed surprisingly calm even after the embargo was announced. In fact, the S&P 500 actually went up 2.3% after the ceasefire in October 1973. People thought the worst was over. And then stocks went down another 40% after that before they were done. It took markets weeks to price in the reality because nothing in their recent history prepared them for oil prices going up 300% in 6 months. There was no model. And there's a chart that I've also been looking at that shows this disconnect happening again right now. What you're looking at is the S&P 500, aka the stock market, measured against something called the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index. It is a long way of saying a measure of how regular people feel about their financial situation. Wall Street is near at all-time highs, right? Main Street consumer sentiment is at one of the lowest points in a long time. Those two lines have just moved together for years. But right now, that gap is really big. And at some point, one of them will be wrong and have to catch up to the other. Historically, it has never been the person filling up the gas tank who was wrong about how the economy felt. Now, that is just oil, right? But this is more than oil. It's also about food. Look at this chart. It shows the price of the most commonly used fertilizer in the world. It's going up right now. It's getting to the same levels we saw during the Ukraine war in 2022 when global food prices caused political crises across the developing world. And this fertilizer,
imagine being able to build an app.
Okay, what you think?
But Linda, you excuse me, you've been talking about that famine.
Right.
Yeah, yes, sir. So I'm listening to that, and then I'm thinking about those other clips. You remember when they stopped getting a lot of stuff from, I think it was Brazil?
Yeah.
Right. So I'm just looking at, and then there was some things we were getting from Canada. So yeah, I'm looking at all of that taking place. It's definitely gonna be a food shortage.
Exactly. Right. And it's gonna seem like it came out of nowhere, but the whole time they knew it was coming. Okay.
Right.
You can see everybody else in the world, they already feeling the effects of it, but these con artists over here, they know how to manipulate and hoodwink. Okay. Yeah. So Well, before we pick a scripture, I've been talking. This is another situation I've been talking about this mosque, the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Let me tell you this right quick.
For the first time since 1967, Al-Aqsa is shut for aid, a holy site locked in a time of war. Now, a chilling question is emerging. If something happens to Al-Aqsa, who gets blamed? And more importantly, who benefits from that blame? The theory is uncomfortable, the logic is hard to dismiss. For the first time since 1967, Al-Aqsa Mosque was closed for Eid prayers, one of Islam's holiest sites, sealed at the most sacred moment. The official reason was security, linked to the ongoing US-Israel conflict with Iran. But beyond the official explanation, a more controversial question is beginning to surface. Is this just a security decision, or something more calculated? What follows is not a confirmed claim, but a geopolitical hypothesis now being discussed across media and strategic circles. American commentator Tucker Carlson has raised the possibility of a false flag scenario involving Al-Aqsa, warning of the consequences if such an event were to unfold. The theory is stark. An attack on Al-Aqsa could be carried out and attributed to Iran, instantly reshaping the narrative of the ongoing conflict. The backdrop matters. Iran is not just another regional player. It is a Shia majority state, while much of the Muslim world, particularly in the Gulf, is Sunni majority. That sectarian divide has shaped rivalries, alliances, and distrust for decades. Iranian missiles have already reached Israeli territory. Reports suggest fragments landed in East Jerusalem, just a few hundred meters from the Al-Aqsa compound. That proximity creates something powerful, a ready-made narrative. If damage were to occur, attribution could be immediate, and the consequences would be global. The logic, as some analysts frame it, is brutally simple. Iran would not just be seen as a military threat, but as the force responsible for damaging one of Islam's most sacred sites. But the sectarian context makes this even more volatile. A Shia Iran being blamed for harm to a site revered across the largely Sunni Muslim world could deepen existing divides, making unified responses less likely and politicized reactions more intense. That shifts the conflict from geopolitical to religious. And once that shift happens, escalation becomes far harder to control. But there is another layer to this story, one that is far less discussed and far more uncomfortable. Because if such a scenario were to unfold, the response from across the Muslim world may not be as straightforward as it appears. Throughout Ramadan, restrictions on Palestinian access to Al-Aqsa were already in place. Reports documented hundreds of orders barring worshippers even before the current escalation. Yet those earlier restrictions did not trigger the same level of coordinated pressure. No sanctions, no diplomatic downgrades, no major policy shifts. At the same time, several of these countries maintain strategic ties with the United States. Some host US military bases, others have normalized relations with Israel. And that is where the contradiction becomes difficult to ignore. On one hand, public condemnation, on the other, ongoing strategic cooperation. Areas surrounding the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound, reportedly beginning on Thursday. He suggested the move could be connected to preparations for exactly such a plan. Whether that evacuation is routine, precautionary, or something else entirely, no independent confirmation has emerged. Meanwhile, on the ground in Jerusalem, the Al-Quds Governorate reported that Israeli occupation police were planning to close Al-Aqsa Mosque to worshippers on Friday, blocking the holding of Friday prayers altogether. This was not an isolated incident. According to the same reports, Israeli forces had been restricting access to the mosque since the beginning of what the sources described as the aggression against Iran, regularly forcing worshippers to leave and preventing the performance of evening and Taraweeh prayers at the site. The Iranian official closed his statement with a direct appeal, calling on, in his words,
Muslims and international actors to warn Israel and its Western allies against carrying out any operation targeting the holy site.
He added that an attack on Al-Aqsa Mosque would constitute a grave crime with far-reaching consequences.
Okay. What you think?
Shalom, it kind of seems like anytime it's been a warning from either side that the other side goes ahead and does it. So I guess that's right. I guess that's gonna be the next target. They're letting us know where the next target is gonna be, and for sure Iran is gonna retaliate if they hit that place right there.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So what they're saying is they're gonna do it in black and say Iran done it. Because you know Iran the one sending all the missiles out all over the place. So they saying that the Israelis gonna make it look like Iran done bombed it. Ain't that something?
Okay.
And then it's gonna turn the Muslim world in against each other.
Right.
Like you know, the Sunnis and all these different factions, right? Yeah, so that's what they're saying. Yeah. So you got a scripture you want to read before we close out?
Right, yes, sir. Brother Leonard, I'm gonna go to dang, should I go to Exodus 6 up there? I'm gonna go to Exodus 6, Brother Leonard. Heard you talking about this today. Get it. And this Brother Leonard, I think it's I think I just need Exodus 6 verses 1 through 5. No, just 1 through 4, sir. And it says, now therefore, no, excuse me. Then the Lord said unto Moses, now shalt thou see what I do to Pharaoh, for with a strong hand shall he let them go, and with a strong hand shall he drive them out of his land. And the Lord spake unto Moses, and said unto him, I am the Lord, and I appeared unto Abraham, unto Isaac, and unto Jacob, by the name of God Almighty. But by my name, Jehovah, was I not known to them. And I have also established my covenant with them to give them the land of Canaan, the land of their pilgrimage, wherein they were strangers. And I have also heard the groaning of my children of Israel, whom the Egyptians kept in bondage, and I have remembered my covenant. And shalom. That was Exodus chapter 6, verses 1 through 5.
Okay, yeah. So like I was saying, when you understand that the God that's over Israel is not Yahweh, it's the Lord of hosts, and which is none other than Michael. Daniel chapter 12, verse 1 tells nothing's gonna happen in Israel until Michael stand up. But my point is this: I've been screaming this for years. So based off of what you just read, okay, and I was explaining that in the beginning the Creator formed these 7 angels. The first one he formed was Michael, and his name tells you everything about him. It's he who is like Yahweh. He's operating, he's moving and like Yahweh. And what you just read, he just explained it. He just explained it through scripture that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob thought he was Yahweh, but they didn't know him by his name, Jehovah, because he's not Yahweh, but he's moving in the authority of Yahweh. Like I said, that's what they put JC in. But anyway, so you say, what are you talking about? Well, when you go to I read it the other day. When you go to Exodus chapter 3, Moses came to the backside of the desert, came to the mountain of God. So the Christian, nobody wants to acknowledge this or understand that they didn't know this, and when it's delivered to them, they reject it. But it says Moses came to the backside of the mountain, and he came to the mountain of God. The Christian automatically assume, because that's what I did, would assume Yahweh. That's the mountain of Yahweh. But when he get up on the mountain, the next verse tells you it's an angel up there. That's what he's talking about. When scripture you just read, they assuming he's Yahweh. They think he's the Most High, but he's not the Most High. So another example, in the cool of the day with Adam. You're thinking it's Yahweh, but it's not Yahweh. And then he kept on saying over and over again in the verses you read about he got a covenant. Well, when you go to Isaiah, when you go to Judges chapter 2, the angel, let me read that. When you go to Judges chapter 2, you come to find out it is an angel who's got the covenant. Let me read it. Okay, and this is what he's talking about. They thought they was assuming he was the Most High. He ain't the Most High. So it says, okay, I'm tripping. Okay. Yeah. Judges chapter 2 says, and the angel of the Lord came up from Gilgal to Beckham, and he said, I made you to go up out of Egypt. See that? And I have brought you into the land which I swore unto your fathers. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob thought he was Yahweh. See that? Say, the land which I swore unto your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And I said, I would never break my covenant. So this angel over the covenant. Like I said, Moses came to the backside of the desert. He came to the mountain of God. You would assume that's Yahweh mountain. But when Moses got up there, it's an angel. The covenant. We see right here, this angel, the same angel got the covenant. He's moving like Yahweh. That's how Yahweh created him. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, brother Leonard. Is the covenant, because I hear people try to trip me up with this. Is the covenant is the covenant that Israel has with the Most High? Is it with Yahweh and Michael is just enforcing it, or is the covenant with Michael himself?
Okay, so how you rightly divide that is Israel inherited a God, right?
Right, yes, sir.
So that tell you right there, he inherited. Michael inherited Israel. Yahweh can't inherit. He can't. A person can't inherit something he already got. It had to be passed on. So the Lord of Hosts gave after Michael went. First of all, Moses came to the backside of the desert. He came to the angel of the Lord, and the Most High, the Lord of Hosts, sent him to Egypt to deliver the Israelites. And he told him, and he took him back to the mountain, which is Michael. That's his mountain. These angels dwell on mountains. Yahweh got a whole heavens of heaven where he dwell at. So this Michael is on his mountain. So he delivered them out of Egypt and brought them back to the mountain. That's when he inherited the Israelites. So it's not, Yahweh gave them up to him after he delivered them. He became their God. Notice what he said. Before that, they thought he was Yahweh. You see what I'm saying? Abraham, right. Isaac, and Jacob. Michael, he told him, he came down on Mount Sinai, and he told them, this angel is going to lead you into the land, and I'm going to go back up. Right?
Right, yes, sir.
So at that point, Yahweh was over them. But then Michael became their God. Like Daniel, I was reading it earlier today, Daniel chapter 9, 10. Let me get it. I don't want. We're in the last days. And I don't need a paraphrasing. So I'm in Daniel, right? Okay. Let me get it. So Daniel chapter 10. Daniel chapter 10 says, like I said, who we gonna deal with, who you gonna listen to when you understand the order of these angels, or you gonna listen to the apostles or Paul? They Johnny come ladies. Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, all these angels was there from the very beginning. Genesis chapter 1:26. Let us make man in our image. They was there from the beginning. Paul and Peter and all them, they Johnny come lately. So Gabriel right here is talking in Daniel 10, starting at verse 19. Says, I start at 18. Then there came again, touched me, one like the appearance of a man, these angels, and he strengthened me and said, this Gabriel, oh man, he's talking to Daniel, oh man, greatly beloved, fear not, peace be unto thee, be strong, yea, be strong. And when he had spoken unto me, I was strengthened. And he said, let my Lord speak, for thou hast strengthened me. Then 20, this Gabriel talking. Then said he, knowest thou wherefore I have come unto thee? And now will I return to fight with the prince of Persia, and I will, and when he is gone, lo, I will fight the prince of Greece shall come. So when you understand this, Daniel was shown by Gabriel 4 beasts were going to come on the world after Israel became a nation. Babylonians, Greek, Medes and Persians. The Babylonians, Medes and Persians, Greeks, then the Romans. And right here, they in Babylon. And Gabriel tells him that he got to go deal with the prince of Persia, which is an angel. When the earth was divided up back during the days of Peleg, the earth was divided up by these angels. Michael received Jerusalem, that region, Mount Zion and all that. That's why when Moses came to the mountain of God, he came to this angel, because that region was given unto him. So Gabriel says, yo, the prince of Greece is going to come after that. Then 21. But Gabriel talking, I will show Daniel, which is noted in the scriptures of truth. That's the book that they're looking on in heaven. And there is none. There is none. Ain't no son hid in the bosom nowhere, or in Abraham's bosom. He says, but I will show thee there is none that holdeth with me in these things but Michael, your prince. So you say, what are you talking about? Well, you got an angel over Greece. You got an angel over Persia, gods. You got a god over a prince, a god over Persia. You got a god, a prince, fallen angel that's over Greece. And Michael, God, the prince that's over Israel. So all these precepts, it's not an accident. All these precepts lead back to this angel. That's because God is over Israel. He inherited Israel. And that's why it says in the next chapter, 12, in verse 1, and at that time shall Michael, I didn't write it, stand up, the great prince, like we just read in Daniel 10, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people. He the one inherited Israel. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even at the same time, and at that time my people shall be delivered. They're going to deliver. Everyone that shall be found written in the book. What book? The book of life. The scriptures of truth. That these angels looking on, that's up in heaven with Yahweh. They're looking at this book. Ain't no New Testament right here. So that's Mark's Nix. Ain't no New Testament. That make any sense?
Right, yes, sir. Those two powers, you got Yahweh in heaven and Michael, the Lord of hosts. Yeah,
Right.
no Jesus.
Right. And like I said, that's what a concept is, a Hebrew concept. That's where they got it from. They didn't diluted it by putting JC in there. But originally Yahweh and Michael is the one coming to the earth. He's the one dealing with the Most High creation. Him and these other angels. He's the physical that they looking at, that everybody dealing with and seeing. Yahweh is in the heavens of heaven, the unseen God. But the one they seeing is Michael. And they diluted that concept by putting JC in it. And so when you get these Yah only people, they can't handle that, because they think that all you doing is just replacing Michael with Jesus. But no, all you doing is going back to the truth. Okay. You got anything else?
No, sir, Brother Leonard.
Okay. So with that being said, like I said, we successfully accomplished another Bible briefing. And so we're gonna go back. I'll see everybody tomorrow. We got our reading to the Tanak. And I'll see everybody then. I want to say shalom, shalom, and another shalom. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Shalom.
Shalom.
Cool. I highly recommend that you get this book and you read it, because it's a must that you understand who God head is in the order that's in the Old Testament and Tanakh, because it's not the same as in the New Testament. And when you read this and you get an understanding, then the scriptures open up, and then you begin to understand. So I highly recommend that you get this book. It's the Elohim of Israel, and it's a breakdown on the word Elohim and who the God of Israel is, and the Godhead.